I never thought I'd be fighting a war in my own neighborhood after serving 2 tours overseas. But that's exactly what happened when my HOA decided to declare war on my service dog. If you've ever had to deal with an HOA that's drunk on power, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Drop a comment below about your craziest HOA experience. I'd love to hear I'm not alone in this battle. It all started when I moved to Lake Serenity Estates after my wife passed away. The doctor suggested a quieter life, and this place looked perfect in the brochures. Manicured lawns, friendly neighbors, and a beautiful lake to walk around. What they didn't mention in the brochure was the HOA board that ran the place like their personal kingdom. I'm a disabled veteran, and my golden retriever Buddy isn't just a pet. He's my lifeline. He's trained to detect when my PTSD is about to trigger and helps me through panic attacks. He's also my mobility support, helping me balance when my old combat injuries act up. Without Buddy, I'd be back in a VA hospital, or worse. The trouble started 3 days after I moved in. I was taking Buddy for his evening walk around the lake when a woman with a clipboard and a look that could curdle milk stopped me. "Sir, I'm Brenda, president of the HOA board," she said, not extending her hand. "I need to inform you that your dog violates our community guidelines." I looked at Buddy, sitting patiently at my side, then back at her. "Ma'am, this is my service dog. He's allowed under federal law. Our community has a strict no pets over 25 pounds policy," she said, ignoring what I just told her. "You'll need to remove the animal or face fines. Buddy weighs 65 pounds, but he's not a pet. He's a medical necessity," I explained, trying to keep my voice steady. "The Americans with Disabilities Act. We have our own rules here," she cut me off. "You'll receive a formal notice in the mail." The next day, a certified letter arrived. $100 fine for violating the pet policy, with an additional $100 fine for each day Buddy remained in the community. I called the number on the letter and was told I could appeal at the next HOA meeting in 2 weeks. Those 2 weeks were hell. Every time I left my house, Brenda or one of her board members seemed to be watching, taking notes. One afternoon, I found a note taped to my door: "Remove the dog or face legal action." You wouldn't believe the stress this was causing me, and Buddy could sense it too. He started staying closer than usual, nudging my hand when he felt my heart rate rising. The night before the hearing, I reached out to a local veteran support group. They gave me the number of a lawyer who specialized in disability rights cases. I called him, explained my situation, and he agreed to meet me before the hearing. "Name's Tom," he said, shaking my hand firmly. "I've dealt with HOA bullies before. They almost always back down when they realize they're messing with federal law." The HOA meeting was held in the community clubhouse with about 20 residents in attendance. Brenda sat at a folding table, flanked by 3 other board members. They looked more like a tribunal than a neighborhood association. "Mr. Henderson," Brenda began, "you've been informed of our community's pet policy, yet you continue to violate it." I stood up, Buddy at my side. "As I've explained, this is my service dog. He's protected under the Americans with Disabilities Act." Brenda smiled thinly. "Our community was established before those regulations were updated. Our bylaws take precedence." Tom stepped forward. "I'm Tom Henderson, Mr. Henderson's legal representative. I'd like to point out that your community was established in 2002. Well, after the ADA was amended to include service animals in housing situations. The board members shifted uncomfortably. One of them, a man named Harold, spoke up. Perhaps we could make an exception given the circumstances. Brenda shot him a look that could freeze fire. We make exceptions for no one. Rules are rules. Tom slid a folder across the table. I've taken the liberty of reviewing your community's bylaws. Section 7, subsection 3, paragraph 2 states that all community rules must comply with federal, state, and local laws. The ADA is federal law. Brenda's face reddened. We'll take this under advisement. Meeting adjourned. For a moment, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe they would see reason and drop this nonsense, but that hope was short-lived. 3 days later, I received another certified letter. This one informed me that the HOA had voted to place a lien on my home for the accumulated fines, now up to $1,400. If I didn't pay within 30 days, they would begin foreclosure proceedings. I was floored. They were actually trying to take my home over my service dog? I called Tom immediately. They can't do this, he said, his voice tight with anger. This is illegal on so many levels. What do we do? I asked, feeling the old panic rising in my chest. Buddy immediately pressed against my leg, his solid presence anchoring me. We fight back, Tom said. And we fight back hard. If this HOA sounds unbelievable already, make sure to hit subscribe. You don't want to miss how this ends. The next few weeks were a blur of legal maneuvering. Tom discovered that the HOA had been operating without proper insurance for years and had failed to file several required documents with the state. He also found that Brenda had been using HOA funds for personal expenses, including a lavish board retreat to Hawaii. But the most damning discovery was yet to come. While reviewing the HOA's financial records, Tom found that they had been systematically denying reasonable accommodations to disabled residents for years, forcing them to either pay exorbitant fines or move out. They've created a pattern of discrimination, Tom explained. Under the Fair Housing Act, that's not just illegal, it's grounds for dissolving the HOA entirely. I could hardly believe it. This wasn't just about me and Buddy anymore. This was about every disabled person who had been bullied by this HOA. We scheduled a meeting with the state's Attorney General's office. They were shocked by what we presented and immediately launched an investigation. Meanwhile, the harassment from the HOA intensified. One morning, I found my tires slashed. Another day, someone threw rocks through my window. Each time, the police were called, but no evidence was found. We all knew who was behind it, but proving it was another matter. The tension in the neighborhood was palpable. Some neighbors sided with me, bringing cookies and words of encouragement. Others avoided me, afraid of Brenda's wrath. A few even joined her campaign of harassment, leaving nasty notes on my door and glaring at me when I walked Buddy. You wouldn't believe the stress this was causing. My PTSD symptoms worsened, and I had several panic attacks. Buddy was working overtime, alerting me to rising anxiety and helping me through each episode. Without him, I don't know what I would have done. Finally, the day of the hearing with the Attorney General's office arrived. The community clubhouse was packed with residents, reporters, and officials. Brenda and her board sat at the front, looking smug and confident. Tom laid out our case, presenting evidence of discrimination, financial misconduct, and violation of federal laws. The HOA's lawyer tried to argue that they were within their rights, but each point was systematically dismantled by Tom and the Attorney General's team. The turning point came when Tom called a surprise witness, a former HOA board member who, had resigned after Brenda refused to accommodate his wife's wheelchair ramp. I tried to reason with her, he testified, but she said it would ruin the aesthetic of the community. When I pointed out that was illegal, she told me to resign if I didn't like it. The room fell silent. Brenda's face went pale. After hours of testimony, the Attorney General's representative stood up. Based on the evidence presented, we are recommending the immediate dissolution of the Lake Serenity Estates HOA, fines for each board member for discrimination, and restitution for all affected residents. A collective gasp went through the room. Brenda looked like she was about to be sick. "Dissolution?" she sputtered. "You can't do that!" The representative smiled grimly. "We can, and we are. Effective immediately, the Lake Serenity Estates HOA no longer exists." The room erupted in cheers and applause. I looked down at Buddy, who was wagging his tail as if he understood what had just happened. In the weeks that followed, the community transformed without the HOA's tyranny. Neighbors started talking to each other again. We formed a voluntary neighborhood association to maintain the common areas, with no fines or threats, just people working together for the good of the community. Brenda and her board members were fined heavily and ordered to pay restitution to everyone they had wronged. Last I heard, she had moved to another state, probably to start her reign of terror elsewhere. As for me and Buddy, we walk around the lake every evening, stopping to chat with neighbors who once avoided us. Life is peaceful again, just as I had hoped when I first moved to Lake Serenity Estates. Looking back, I'm amazed at how something so simple, a man and his service dog, could unravel an entire corrupt system. It just goes to show you that standing up for what's right, even when it's difficult, can make all the difference in the world. If you're facing a similar situation with your HOA, remember that knowledge is power. Know your rights, document everything, and don't be afraid to seek legal help. And if you have a service animal by your side, take comfort in knowing that the law is on your side. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've had your own battles with HOAs or have fought for your rights as a disabled person, share your experiences in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories about everyday people standing up to injustice and winning.